Good evening, my friends. Tonight, I'm going to tell you something that will sound completely backwards, something that contradicts everything you've been taught about achieving your desires. The harder you try, the further away your manifestation becomes. I know this sounds impossible. You've been conditioned your entire life to believe that success requires effort, that you must work hard, push harder, try your best, give it everything you've got. But when it comes to manifestation, when it comes to the law of assumption, effort is not your ally. Effort is your enemy. And tonight, you're going to understand why. You're going to discover why every ounce of effort you put into manifesting is actually creating resistance that pushes your desire away. And more importantly, you're going to learn what to do instead. This is the teaching that separates true masters of consciousness from those who exhaust themselves trying to make things happen. Let me show you where you're going wrong. You wake up and decide today is the day you're going to manifest your desire. You're going to do it right. You're going to put in the work. So you spend an hour visualizing. You repeat your affirmations 50 times. You write out your desires in detail. You make a vision board. You listen to audios. You do every technique you've learned. You're trying so hard, working so diligently, putting in maximum effort, and then nothing happens. Or worse, things move in the opposite direction. You're confused, frustrated, discouraged. I did everything right, you think. I put in so much effort. Why isn't it working? But that's exactly the problem. You put in effort. Let me ask you something. When you already have something, when you truly possess it, do you put effort into having it? Do you wake up every morning and try hard to have what you already have? Do you work at having your current reality? Do you put effort into having the things that are already yours? No. You just have them, effortlessly, naturally, without trying. This is the state you must be in regarding your desire, not the state of trying to get it. Not the state of working to manifest it, but the state of already having it. And having requires no effort whatsoever. Let me show you what's really happening when you put effort into manifesting. Effort is force. And force comes from the belief that something isn't happening, something isn't working, something needs to be pushed into existence. When you're trying hard to manifest, what you're really saying, what you're really assuming is, I don't have this, it's not here yet. I need to make it happen. It won't come unless I force it. Every ounce of effort is broadcasting the frequency of lack, of separation, of not having. You think you're moving toward your desire, but you're actually affirming its absence with every action you take. Think about it. If you truly had $1 million in your bank account right now, would you be sitting there desperately visualizing it? Would you be repeating affirmations about money? Would you be trying to feel abundant? No, you would simply be abundant. Without effort, without trying, without doing anything to create what's already yours. This is the paradox. The moment you try to manifest something, you're affirming that you don't have it. And that assumption, that underlying frequency of not having, is what manifests, not your desire, your lack of it. Let me explain something fundamental about how assumption actually works. An assumption is not something you do. It's something you are. When you assume something, you're not working at believing it. You're not trying to convince yourself of it. You're not putting effort into making it real. You simply accept it as fact, naturally, effortlessly. The way you accept that the sun rose this morning, or that you're sitting where you're sitting right now. Do you put effort into assuming your name? Do you work hard at assuming your current location? Do you try to believe you're breathing? No. These things are so obviously true to you that assumption is automatic, effortless, natural. This is the state you must reach regarding your desire. Not trying to believe you have it, not working to feel like you have it, but naturally, effortlessly assuming it as fact. And here's what you need to understand. You cannot effort your way into a natural assumption. Trying hard to believe something actually proves you don't believe it. Because if you truly believed it, trying would be unnecessary. This is why all your effort is working against you. Let me paint you a picture of what true manifestation looks like. Imagine someone who is genuinely wealthy. Not someone trying to manifest wealth. Someone who is wealthy. How do they think about money? They don't. Not in the way you do. They're not constantly visualizing bank accounts. They're not repeating affirmations about abundance. They're not working hard to feel rich. They simply are rich. And because they are, money is just there, available, accessible, not something they have to try to have. When they see something they want, they don't think I need to manifest the money for this. They think I can get that if I want. Or they don't think about it at all. They just get it. There's no effort, no force, no trying, just natural effortless having. This is the state you must occupy regarding your desire, not the state of trying to get it, the state of already having it, where having is so natural, so assumed, so effortless, that you don't even think about it anymore. Now let me show you the energetic mechanism of why effort pushes your desire away. Manifestation happens through resonance, not force. Think of a tuning fork. When you strike one tuning fork, another fork across the room begins to vibrate at the same frequency, without any physical contact, without any effort, through pure resonance. This is how manifestation works. When you are in the state of having your desire, when you embody that frequency naturally, effortlessly, circumstances, people, and opportunities that match that frequency are drawn to you automatically. Not because you're forcing them, because you're resonating with them. But when you try to force manifestation through effort, you're like someone trying to make the second tuning fork vibrate by pushing it, hitting it, working at it. You're creating discord, resistance, interference. The more you push, the more resistance you create. The more resistance you create, the more effort you think you need. The more effort you apply, the more you affirm lack. And the cycle continues, keeping your desire perpetually out of reach. Now, let me address something important. I teach visualization. I teach SATs. I teach techniques. But these techniques are not about effort. They're about assumption. When you visualize your desire fulfilled, you're not trying to make it happen. You're not working to create it. You're not forcing the universe to give it to you. You're simply occupying the state of already having it. You're rehearsing the feeling of possession. You're assuming it's done. And if there's effort in your visualization, if you're straining, forcing, trying hard, you're doing it wrong. True visualization is effortless. You close your eyes and you're simply there in the reality where your desire is fulfilled. No trying, no forcing, just being. It should feel natural, easy, like remembering something that already happened rather than trying to create something that hasn't. If your visualization feels like work, you're in the wrong state. You're trying instead of being. In Scripture, God rested on the seventh day, the Sabbath, the day of rest after creation. This is one of the most profound teachings about manifestation, hidden in plain sight. When God rested, creation was complete. Not because God was tired, but because when creation is truly finished, effort ceases. This is the state you must reach regarding your desire. You assume it's done, completely done, finished, already created in consciousness, and then you rest. You don't keep trying to create it. You don't keep working at manifesting it. You don't keep putting effort into making it happen. You rest in the knowing that it's already done. This rest, this cessation of effort, is not laziness. It's the ultimate act of faith. It's the seal on your assumption. It says, I have assumed my desire fulfilled. The work is done. Now I rest, knowing that what I have established in consciousness must manifest in my world. And it's in this rest, this effortlessness, this complete absence of trying, that manifestation happens most powerfully. Let me show you something else about effort that you need to see. Most of the time, your effort isn't coming from faith. It's coming from anxiety. You're not working hard because you believe it's working. You're working hard because you're afraid it's not. You visualize obsessively because you're worried that if you don't, nothing will happen. You repeat affirmations constantly because you're anxious that your desire won't come without them. You try technique after technique because you're scared that you haven't found the right one yet. All of this effort is anxiety in disguise, and anxiety is the opposite of assumption. When you truly assume something, you're not anxious about it. You're certain of it. And certainty requires no effort, no constant checking, no desperate trying. Think about something you're absolutely certain of. The sun will rise tomorrow. You exist, your name is your name. Are you anxious about these things? Are you putting effort into making them true? No, because certainty is effortless. This is the state you must reach regarding your desire. Not anxious effort, but effortless certainty. So if effort is your enemy, what do you do instead? You assume. And then you let go. That's it. That's the entire practice. You choose your desired state. You occupy it fully, not through strain and effort, but through natural imagination and feeling. You assume it's done. You claim it as yours in consciousness. And then you let go of trying to make it happen. You don't monitor the physical world for evidence. You don't anxiously work at manifesting. You don't force or push or try. You simply live from your assumption, naturally, effortlessly, the way you live from any assumption you hold about yourself. If someone asks, "Are you trying to manifest abundance?" and your honest answer is yes, "I'm trying so hard," you're in the wrong state. The right answer is, "I am abundant. I'm not trying to be. I am." This shift from trying to have to simply being is everything. Now some of you are thinking, but don't I have to do anything? Don't I have to take action? Let me clarify this carefully. There's a difference between inspired action and forced effort. Forced effort comes from the belief that your manifestation won't happen unless you make it happen. It's rooted in lack, fear, and doubt. Inspired action comes from the naturalness of your assumption. It's what you do because it's natural for someone in your state to do it. A person who is wealthy doesn't force themselves to manage their money. They naturally do what wealthy people do because that's who they are. A person who is loved doesn't try to behave like someone who's loved. They naturally interact from that state because that's their reality. Do you see the difference? One is trying to become. The other is being. One is effort. The other is naturalness. When you truly assume your desire fulfilled, certain actions will feel natural, easy, obvious, not forced. You take these actions not because you're trying to make your desire happen, but because they're what someone in your state would naturally do. This is the only action that serves manifestation. Action that flows from being, not from trying to become. Here's how you know if you're in true assumption or if you're still trapped in effort. Ask yourself, if I stop doing all my manifestation techniques right now, stop visualizing, stop affirming, stop trying, would I still feel like my desire is mine? If the answer is no, if you feel like you must keep working at it, or it won't happen, you're not in assumption, you're in effort. True assumption doesn't need constant reinforcement. It doesn't require perpetual technique. It doesn't depend on you trying every day. True assumption is a resting state, a settled knowing, a natural certainty that requires no effort to maintain. You know your name without having to repeat it to yourself every day. You know you exist without having to visualize it constantly. You know what you know with zero effort. This is how you must know your desire is fulfilled, with the same effortless certainty. This is the core distinction you must understand. Most people are working toward their desire, trying to reach it, putting effort into getting there. But manifestation doesn't work that way. You must live from your desire, from the end, from the state of already having. And when you're truly living from it, there's no effort, there's no trying, there's no working toward, there's only being. You're not trying to become wealthy. You are wealthy, and you live from that state. You're not working toward being loved. You are loved, and you move through your day from that reality. You're not putting effort into manifesting success. You are successful, and everything you do flows from that identity. This is living from the end, and it's completely effortless. The moment effort enters, you've exited the end and returned to the journey. You're no longer in having. You're in trying to get, and trying to get never manifests having. Only being in the state of having manifests having. There's a beautiful paradox at the heart of manifestation that most people miss. The moment you stop trying to make it happen is often the moment it happens. Why? Because when you stop trying, you finally let go of the lack assumption hidden in your effort. You've stopped affirming, I don't have this yet, through your desperate attempts to create it. You finally entered the state of rest, of completion, of already having. I've seen it countless times. Someone tries and tries and tries to manifest something. They put in tremendous effort. Nothing happens. Then one day, exhausted, they give up. They surrender. They stop trying, and within days or weeks, the manifestation appears. Not because giving up made it happen, but because in that surrender, they accidentally entered the state they'd been trying so hard to reach, the state of already having, where no effort is needed. This doesn't mean you should give up on your desire. It means you should give up on trying to force it into existence. Assume it's done, and then rest in that completion, effortlessly. So what does this look like practically? Instead of spending hours trying to visualize, spend 5 minutes naturally imagining your wish fulfilled. Make it easy. Make it feel good. No strain, no force. Instead of repeating affirmations hundreds of times trying to convince yourself, simply assume it once with certainty and move on with your day. Instead of constantly checking for evidence and working to stay positive, occupy your desired state naturally and let circumstances catch up. Instead of anxiously monitoring every thought and forcing yourself to think correctly, gently redirect your mind when you notice it's wandered. Then let it rest in your assumption. The entire practice becomes light, easy, natural, effortless. You're not working at manifestation. You're simply being in your desired state, and being requires no effort whatsoever. Ultimately, this teaching is about shifting your identity. You are not someone who is trying to manifest something. You are someone who has it. And someone who has something doesn't put effort into having it. They just have it. Naturally. Effortlessly. Obviously. When this becomes your identity, when you stop being the person who's working to get and become the person who already has, everything changes. You move through your day differently. You think differently. You feel differently. You are different. And the world, responding to who you are in consciousness, must reorganize to reflect this new identity. Not because you forced it, because you assumed it, effortlessly. Tonight, I want you to do something radical. Stop trying. Just stop. Stop trying to manifest your desire. Stop working at it. Stop putting effort into making it happen. Instead, simply assume it's already done. Feel yourself as the person who already has it, not the person trying to get it, the person who has it. And notice how effortless this is, how natural, how easy. You're not forcing anything. You're not straining. You're just being in the state of having. Tomorrow, when you wake up, don't start working on your manifestation. Don't begin your effort. Simply be the person who already has what you desire. Move through your day from that state, naturally, effortlessly. When you catch yourself trying, when you notice effort creeping in, stop, breathe, return to natural assumption. Do this for 7 days. A full week of effortless assumption instead of effortful trying, and watch what happens. I promise you the manifestations that come from effortless assumption will far surpass anything you achieve through effort, because effort creates resistance. But assumption creates reality. Let me close with this. You already have your desire in consciousness. It's already done, already created, already yours. The only question is, will you exhaust yourself trying to get what you already have? Or will you rest in the knowing that it's yours? And let that assumption manifest effortlessly. Effort is your enemy, because it denies what's already true in consciousness. Effortless assumption is your power, because it acknowledges what's already done. Stop trying, start being. Stop working, start resting in completion. Stop forcing, start allowing. This is the secret of true manifestation. Not effort, effortlessness. You are not learning to try harder. You are learning that you never needed to try at all. You only needed to assume. This is the secret. Thank you and good evening. This is Best of Lectures. I will see you in the next video. You already have it. not as a future event, not as a distant possibility, but as a present fact established within consciousness. The moment a desire appeared in you, it was not a suggestion of lack, it was proof of ownership. Nothing enters awareness without first being sanctioned by a deeper law. Desire is the echo of fulfillment calling you to recognize what is already yours. Most people believe receiving is something that happens after effort, struggle, or waiting. But receiving is not an action, it is a state. It is not something you do, it is something you allow by remaining aligned with the certainty of possession. The only requirement is readiness, and readiness has nothing to do with external conditions. Readiness is an inner posture, a quiet acceptance that says, "This is mine, and I am available for it now." To stay ready to receive, you must release the habit of scanning the world for confirmation. The outer world is always delayed. It reflects what has already been accepted within. When you look outside too soon, you introduce doubt. When you look inside and remain settled, you maintain authority. The one who knows does not rush, does not beg, and does not chase signs. Knowing is calm, knowing is still. Faith is often misunderstood as emotional intensity or hopeful wishing. True faith is far simpler and far more powerful. It is the absence of inner argument. It is the end of negotiation with life. Faith is when the mind stops asking how and rests in done. When faith is present, anxiety fades, not because everything has appeared yet, but because nothing needs to be forced. Staying ready means you do not mentally rehearse disappointment. You do not prepare yourself for delay. You do not protect yourself from imagined failure. Those habits signal mistrust. Instead, you live from the assumption that fulfillment is normal, expected, and appropriate. You move through your day as one who is already supported, already chosen, already supplied. Detachment is not indifference. Detachment is confidence. When you know something is yours, you do not grip it tightly. You relax. You do not fear losing it because you are not trying to get it. You are simply allowing the natural sequence of expression to unfold. Timing is not your responsibility. Alignment is. Your role is not to manipulate circumstances, but to maintain identity. When you remain identified with the version of yourself who already has, circumstances reorganize without instruction. Life rearranges itself to match the assumption you consistently occupy. Doors open not because you knocked harder, but because you arrived knowing they were meant for you. Readiness is reflected in how you respond to the present moment. Do you complain or do you trust? Do you resist or do you allow? Every reaction is a confession of belief. Choose responses that align with fulfillment, speak from completion, think from stability, act without desperation. Receiving does not require perfection. It requires allowance. Even doubt loses power when it is not entertained. You do not need to fight opposing thoughts. You only need to stop feeding them. Return again and again to the quiet knowing. This is already established. Persistence is not force. It is loyalty to that knowing. When the moment of physical arrival comes, it will feel natural, not dramatic. That is how you will know it is real. Manifestation never shocks the one who has already accepted it. It arrives like a long-expected guest, welcomed without surprise. So stay ready, stay inwardly open, stay settled in the assumption of fulfillment. You already have it, and because you know this, receiving becomes inevitable, not as a miracle, but as a reflection of who you chose to be. Desire is not a sign of absence. It is a signal of ownership operating beneath conscious awareness. Nothing arises within the mind without first existing as a possibility already approved by a deeper level of consciousness. If something were truly foreign to you, it could not appear as a desire at all. Desire emerges because, at some level, the experience is already claimed. It is the inner announcement of what has been accepted as yours before it becomes visible in form. Most people are conditioned to interpret desire as proof that something is missing. This misunderstanding creates tension, striving, and impatience. But desire does not come to torment you, it comes to awaken you. It is not asking you to chase, beg, or force reality into compliance. It is inviting you to recognize an existing truth and align with it. The moment you feel desire, the work is not to pursue it, but to assume it. At the deepest level, consciousness does not operate in time. It does not distinguish between now and later. When a desire is impressed upon it, the impression is treated as fact. The delay that appears in the outer world is not a denial. It is simply the time it takes for the inner assumption to reorganize perception, behavior, and circumstance. Desire, then, is evidence that the seed has already been planted. Your task is not to dig it up repeatedly to check if it is growing, but to let it mature in its own way. When you understand desire correctly, urgency dissolves, anxiety fades, because you no longer feel separated from what you want. You stop asking when it will happen, because you no longer experience it as distant. You begin to live from a quiet expectancy, a natural confidence that does not need reassurance. This inner shift is the bridge between wanting and having. Desire becomes painful only when it is resisted or questioned. When you argue with it, doubt it, or label it unrealistic, you interrupt the natural flow of fulfillment. Resistance creates the illusion of struggle. Acceptance restores ease. To accept desire is to say, this belongs to me, and therefore it is allowed to appear. There is no force in this acceptance, only recognition. The moment you stop treating desire as a problem to solve, it transforms into guidance. It shows you the direction of your becoming. It reveals the version of yourself that already exists in potential. Desire is not pointing outward, it is pointing inward, toward an identity that is ready to be embodied. As you begin to honor desire as evidence of possession, your relationship with life changes. You become calmer, more grounded, and more trusting. You stop chasing outcomes and start aligning with states. You move from effort into allowance. In this state, fulfillment is no longer something you hope for, it is something you expect. Desire is consciousness remembering itself. It is the echo of completion calling you to match it. When you no longer treat desire as lack, it completes its purpose. What was once felt as longing becomes certainty, and certainty naturally expresses itself as experience. Readiness is not found in external arrangements, lists, or preparations. It is a condition of the mind and heart. Many mistake readiness for action. They believe that acquiring resources, planning, or waiting for the right moment constitutes being ready. In truth, all external preparation is meaningless unless it is accompanied by an inner state that aligns with what is to be received. Readiness begins within, in the quiet recognition that you are already equipped to handle, experience, and embody the fulfillment of your desire. To be ready is to be settled, to have no inner conflict, and to possess a calm confidence that what you seek is already yours. External circumstances may fluctuate, people may resist, and opportunities may appear delayed, but these fluctuations have no bearing on true readiness. They are irrelevant when the mind has already assumed the state of having. When you understand this, preparation becomes internal rather than external. The mind becomes the workshop, the emotions, the instruments, and the imagination, the rehearsal space for living in the end of your desire. Many struggle because they wait for conditions to be perfect before they feel ready. They say, I will be ready when I have the money, the connections, the timing. But external perfection is never guaranteed, and relying on it is a trap. Real readiness ignores timing, ignores circumstance, and ignores the how of manifestation. It rests in the inner certainty that all required alignment has already taken place, and therefore the external world is only a reflection of what has been assumed internally. The moment you accept that readiness is internal, fear and hesitation dissolve. You stop postponing life until conditions align, and instead become a magnet for those conditions to naturally arrange themselves. Inner readiness also allows for effortless reception. When you are internally prepared, the universe does not need to struggle to meet you. It simply flows. Opportunities, relationships, insights, and resources present themselves because you are now compatible with their vibration. The outer world always follows the inner state. The one who is ready internally does not have to manipulate, chase, or compel. The state of readiness alone opens the door. Being internally ready also transforms your response to the present moment. You stop resisting what appears and stop forcing what hasn't yet manifested. You move with fluidity, patience, and quiet confidence. You no longer measure yourself by external benchmarks or judge the process. You rest in a knowing that fulfillment is inevitable because you are aligned with it internally. The external will always mirror this state. Readiness is not a checklist. It is the state of being that allows you to fully receive, to act decisively when opportunity arises, and to live in harmony with the inevitability of your own manifestation. When you cultivate this inner readiness, nothing in the external world can surprise you or throw you off balance. You are prepared, not by circumstance, but by consciousness itself. Faith is often misunderstood as an emotional surge, a forceful attempt to believe against the evidence, or a desperate hope that somehow things will work out. True faith, however, is far quieter, deeper, and more potent. It is a settled state of mind that carries no strain, no agitation, no pleading. It is certainty, not in the sense of wishful thinking, but in the sense of inner knowing that your desire is already accomplished and that the reality of it exists independently of current appearances. Faith is not a task. It is a condition of consciousness, effortless because it is natural. Many people attempt to feel faith through emotions, trying to manufacture excitement or conviction. This only creates tension and resistance because faith is not emotional. It is mental and existential. When you truly have faith, there is no need to argue with reality, to convince yourself, or to resist doubt. Faith rests beyond doubt. It does not contend with appearances or wait for proof. It does not fluctuate with circumstances. It is a quiet, unwavering acknowledgement that what is desired is already present in the deeper order of life and will express itself in the outer world in due time. Faith is aligned with identity, not with external events. It is the inner certainty that allows the mind to dwell in the state of the wish fulfilled. When faith is genuine, it does not react to delays or setbacks because it knows that time and circumstance are secondary. What matters is alignment with the inner reality of fulfillment. Faith is calm because it is aware that everything needed for manifestation is already in motion, whether seen or unseen. So it is patient because it trusts in the natural unfolding of what consciousness has assumed. This quiet certainty shapes perception and experience. The one who embodies faith sees opportunities, resources, and guidance where the doubting mind sees obstacles. Faith is not about hoping or desiring. It is about accepting, knowing, and living from completion. When you act from this state, actions are inspired rather than forced. Decisions are guided rather than frantic, and life flows without struggle. This effortless alignment with reality opens doors that effort alone cannot. Faith also transforms the inner dialogue. Instead of questioning, worrying, or negotiating with reality, the faithful mind rests in assurance. Doubt may appear, but it cannot take hold, because faith is stronger than hesitation. It does not fight doubt, but ignores it, returning always to certainty. It is steady, unwavering, and self-sufficient. It does not demand reinforcement from the outer world because it is already validated by inner awareness. The thought spirits takes every true faith is the ultimate expression of alignment. It is the silent power that converts assumption into experience, inner certainty into outer manifestation. It does not need to be felt intensely, it simply needs to be known. And when it is known, the universe responds naturally, effortlessly, and inevitably. Detachment from timing is one of the most misunderstood yet powerful principles of manifestation. Most people believe that the realization of a desire is dependent on a strict timetable, a sequence of events, or their own ability to force circumstances to align. They measure progress by external markers and grow anxious when the desired outcome does not appear on schedule. This attachment to timing is the very obstacle that delays fulfillment. True detachment, however, liberates the process. It allows what is already established in consciousness to express itself naturally in the external world. Detachment from timing does not mean passivity or neglect. It does not suggest ignoring your goals or ceasing inspired action. Rather, it is a conscious recognition that the universe operates beyond your perception of time. What you have assumed in your mind, what you have already accepted as real, is independent of the calendar, the clock, or the sequence of events you imagine. The manifestation is already complete in the inner realm. Your only task is to maintain a state that reflects that completion. Clinging to timing creates inattention. When you insist that your desire must appear by a certain moment, you are essentially arguing with life, implying that the natural order is insufficient. This inner struggle generates doubt, frustration, and impatience. These emotions are counterproductive because they are misaligned with the state of having. Detachment, on the other hand, fosters calm and trust. When you release control over timing, you stop resisting the present moment, and your energy flows freely. Fulfillment is then allowed to appear in the most harmonious way, often surpassing your limited expectations. Detachment also strengthens faith. The mind no longer vacillates between hope and despair, between expectation and fear. Instead, it rests in the quiet knowledge that what is already assumed cannot fail to appear. Time becomes irrelevant because you understand that manifestation is a matter of inner alignment, not chronological scheduling. The outer world is simply a mirror reflecting the state you occupy within. By detaching from timing, you remove the mental obstacles that cloud perception and delay the reflection of your desire. Detachment creates receptivity. When you are free from the pressure of deadlines, you are more open to opportunities, guidance, and unexpected channels through which your desire can manifest. The universe responds naturally to a mind that is settled and patient. The manifestation arrives with ease, without struggle, because nothing is being forced and everything is allowed. Detachment from timing is the art of aligning with the inevitable. It is the recognition that fulfillment is already established in consciousness and that the outer world will conform in its perfect moment. By letting go of timelines and surrendering the when, you create space for the effortless expression of your desire. Peace replaces urgency, trust replaces worry, and life unfolds in accordance with the law that what is yours will appear, always, inevitably, and beautiful. Inner alignment is the cornerstone of effortless manifestation. Most people attempt to create change through external effort, striving, forcing, or trying to manipulate circumstances to conform to their desires. Yet, true transformation does not begin outside. It begins within. Alignment is the state in which your thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and assumptions are all synchronized with the reality you wish to experience. When this inner harmony is achieved, resistance dissolves automatically because opposition exists only where there is misalignment. Resistance is not an external condition, it is a reflection of inner discord. Doubt, fear, and frustration arise when the conscious mind desires one thing while the subconscious mind clings to a conflicting assumption. This inner conflict generates tension, uncertainty, and struggle in life. The outer world simply mirrors this state, presenting obstacles that appear to justify your lack of progress. But the obstacles are not the source of difficulty. They are the signal pointing to what must be harmonized within. When you align internally, resistance loses its grip because nothing inside is opposing the expression of your desire. Inner alignment requires clarity of assumption. It demands that you fully accept in thought and feeling the reality of what you wish to experience. This means imagining, believing, and feeling from the state of the wish fulfilled, rather than from the vantage point of lack. Alignment is not about forcing the mind to think positively or pushing away negative thoughts. It is about establishing a stable, unwavering assumption that serves as the foundation for experience. Once this foundation is in place, resistance, the tension between what is assumed and what is desired, vanishes naturally. Emotions play a crucial role in alignment. When your feelings resonate with the reality you wish to create, you are no longer generating friction in the field of consciousness. Calm expectancy replaces anxiety, confidence replaces doubt, and peace replaces struggle. These emotional states are not manufactured. They arise naturally from the certainty that your desire is already accomplished at a deeper level. Alignment is therefore effortless because it is not about controlling the world. It is about embodying the inner truth that what is already yours must express itself outwardly. Inner alignment also transforms perception. Challenges and delays no longer appear as threats or barriers. They are neutral events passing through a mind that remains centered in its own assumption. The outer world conforms automatically because the inner state dictates the pattern of experience. When there is no internal resistance, there is nothing to reflect externally that contradicts the fulfillment of your desire. Inner alignment is the silent engine of manifestation. It eliminates the need for struggle, for chasing, or for convincing life to cooperate. Resistance cannot exist where harmony is complete. By cultivating alignment, you allow your desires to flow naturally into expression, effortlessly, without force, and in perfect timing. The moment you align within, the outer world begins to yield to your inner reality, proving that all true power resides in the state of consciousness you choose to maintain. Receiving is never a matter of chasing, forcing, or convincing the outer world to comply. It is a natural outcome when identity aligns with expectation. Most people believe that they must earn, struggle, or wait for circumstances to change before they are ready to receive. In reality, the capacity to receive is determined not by external conditions, but by the state of consciousness you inhabit. When your identity, the version of yourself you assume to be real, matches the expectation of fulfillment, receiving flows effortlessly as a natural reflection of who you are. Identity is the foundation of experience. Whatever you consistently identify with becomes your point of attraction, your lens through which life is filtered. If you see yourself as someone lacking, struggling, or unworthy, the world will mirror that perception and opportunities will be filtered through doubt and limitation. On the other hand, when you assume the identity of one who already possesses, the expectation of fulfillment becomes coherent with your sense of self. The alignment between identity and expectation generates a state in which receiving is not exceptional, it is ordinary, inevitable, and natural. Expectation is the mental and emotional companion to identity. It is the quiet certainty that what you desire is already yours, expressed in thought, feeling, and assumption. When your inner world expects completion, the outer world responds. Receiving is never delayed or blocked when identity and expectation are synchronized. Resistance, hesitation, and uncertainty arise only when there is a mismatch. When the mind expects one thing, but the sense of self identifies with another, this conflict creates friction, and the outer world mirrors it. Harmony, however, dissolves that friction effortlessly. When identity matches expectation, you no longer need to chase outcomes. Opportunities, resources, and experiences present themselves spontaneously because your inner state resonates with the reality you have assumed. The act of receiving becomes effortless, not because life has been manipulated, but because the outer world naturally conforms to the inner. You embody the energy of having, and having attracts itself into expression. The outer is always a reflection of the inner. When alignment is complete, manifestation is automatic. This principle also transforms your relationship with waiting, timing, and desire. You no longer feel incomplete while anticipating fulfillment. You live from the end, enjoying the state of the wish fulfilled. Your actions, words, and emotions reflect completion rather than lack. And this vibrational harmony allows life to deliver without struggle. Receiving is no longer a goal, It is a natural expression of your assumed reality. The universe does not need to convince you or teach you a lesson. It simply responds to the reality you are embodying. Releasing is a mirror of identity. When who you are matches what you expect, fulfillment is inevitable. The act of receiving flows effortlessly, gracefully, and naturally, because there is no internal conflict to obstruct it. Align the self with expectation, and the world aligns in return. The moment your identity embodies the reality you desire, receiving becomes effortless, as simple and natural as breathing, proving that you are always ready to experience what you already are. In conclusion, the path to fulfillment is not found in struggle, external effort, or waiting for the right circumstances. It begins within, in the quiet recognition that what you desire is already yours at a deeper level of consciousness. Desire signals possession, readiness is an inner state, and faith is the calm certainty that removes all doubt. Detachment from timing allows manifestation to unfold naturally, while inner alignment dissolves resistance automatically. When your identity matches your expectation, receiving becomes effortless, natural, and inevitable. Life responds not to your chasing, but to the state of being you maintain, reflecting back to you the reality you have already assumed. By embodying these principles, you align yourself with the effortless flow of fulfillment, moving through life with confidence, peace, and certainty. Thank you.
How deeply our belief.
The thing you are waiting for is not ahead of you, but already finished. What if the life you desire is not being built piece by piece, but exists in its entirety, waiting only for your acceptance? This is not a message of hope for the future. It is a declaration of truth in the present. Creation is complete. Nothing is missing. Nothing is unfinished. The only movement required is not in the world, but within you. Every desire you hold arises from fulfillment, not from lack. You would not feel the pull towards something unless it already existed in a form you are capable of receiving. Desire is not a sign of absence. It is evidence of readiness. The moment the desire appeared in your awareness, its completion was already established. Your role is not to make it happen, but to allow it to enter your experience. The outer world is not the source of your life. It is the reflection of your inner state. What you consistently assume to be true about yourself, about life, and about possibility hardens into fact. Circumstances do not have creative power. They are rearranged shadows responding to the inner position you occupy. When you change your assumption, the world has no choice but to follow. Time is often misunderstood as the creator, but time creates nothing. It merely reveals what has already been accepted. The delay you perceive is not proof that something is missing. It is an invitation to look within and ask whether you have truly allowed yourself to receive. Acceptance is the moment creation becomes visible. When you internally consent to the reality of fulfillment, time collapses and the bridge of events forms naturally. Feeling is the language through which reality is impressed, not emotion, but the quiet, settled knowing that something is done. When you feel from the end, when you rest in the inner atmosphere of completion, you are no longer trying to get, you are simply being. From that state, effort dissolves, struggle fades, and life begins to cooperate in ways that feel almost effortless. Resistance does not stop fulfillment, it only delays recognition. The world is already moving. Doors are already opening. People, opportunities, and circumstances are already aligning. Your task is to release the need to control the how and the when, and instead occupy the certainty of the now. When you stop questioning whether it will happen and begin knowing that it is happening, the shift is immediate. So stand in the calm confidence of completion. Walk, speak, and think as one who knows the work is done. You are not waiting for life to change. Life is waiting for you to agree. It is already complete. Now it is entering your world. Realization is finished. And this truth changes everything the moment it is understood. What you call a desire is not something being formed or created in the future. It is evidence of something that already exists in its complete and perfect form. Nothing comes into your awareness unfinished. The very fact that you can imagine a fulfilled state means that it already has reality beyond the limits of your senses. Desire is not a request to the universe, nor is it a sign that something is missing. It is an invitation to recognize what is already yours. Most people believe they must struggle, work, or wait for time to shape their dreams into form. Yet time creates nothing. Time merely reveals what has already been accepted internally. When you hold the assumption that fulfillment is distant, life mirrors that belief through delay. But when you accept that creation is complete, waiting dissolves. You stop asking when and begin resting in the certainty that it is done. This inner shift removes the pressure to force outcomes and replaces it with quiet confidence. The outer world has never been the source of your success, happiness, or abundance. It is only the stage upon which your inner convictions are displayed. What you persistently assume to be true about yourself becomes visible through circumstances, people, and events. If the desire exists within you, then the completed version of it must also exist. You are not meant to create it, chase it, or earn it. You are meant to align with it. Alignment does not require effort, it requires acceptance. The moment you internally agree that your desire is already fulfilled, your role changes from seeking to allowing. You begin to feel differently, think differently, and respond to life from a place of certainty rather than hope. This feeling of completion is not excitement or emotion, but a calm knowing. It is the sense of relief that comes when you realize there is nothing left to do. Doubt may arise, not because fulfillment is uncertain, but because old assumptions are dissolving. When the mind resists this truth, it is only reacting to unfamiliar freedom. Persistence in the assumption of completion gently reshapes your inner world, and the outer world must follow. Circumstances reorganize naturally, without strain or force, to reflect the state you now occupy. Understand this clearly. You are not waiting for creation to happen. Creation has already happened. What appears as delay is simply the interval between recognition and manifestation. When you accept that your desire exists now in its fulfilled form, you step out of struggle and into alignment. From that state, life moves effortlessly, and what was once imagined becomes visibly real, right on time. What you assume as true within determines what appears without, whether you are aware of it or not. Life is not responding to your wishes, your words, or even your actions as much as it is responding to your deepest assumptions. These assumptions are the quiet agreements you make with yourself about who you are, what is possible, and what you can expect from the world. Once accepted, they operate automatically, shaping your experiences with precision and consistency. An assumption is not something you occasionally think about. It is something you live from. It is the inner position you return to when no one is watching. If you assume that life is difficult, circumstances will repeatedly confirm struggle. If you assume that opportunities are scarce, doors will appear closed. The world does not argue with your assumptions, it reflects them faithfully. This is not punishment or reward, it is simply alignment. The inner world is the cause and the outer world is the effect. Trying to change appearances without changing assumptions is like attempting to alter reflection without touching the mirror. You may adjust your behavior, surroundings, or strategies, but if the inner belief remains unchanged, the same patterns will reappear in new forms. True transformation begins when the assumption itself shifts. When you consciously choose an assumption, you are choosing a future experience. To assume something as true is to feel it as real now, even before any physical evidence appears. This does not require blind optimism or forced belief, it requires acceptance. The moment you accept an idea as natural and normal, it begins to externalize. Life reorganizes, subtly at first through thoughts, impulses, conversations, and coincidences, until the assumption becomes visible fact. Many people wait for proof before they allow themselves to believe, but proof always follows belief, never the other way around. The world must reflect your inner agreement, but it can only do so after that agreement is made. When you assume from the end, feeling inwardly as though the desire is already fulfilled, you step into a state that the outer world must eventually match. Resistance often arises because old assumptions feel familiar, even when they are limiting. Releasing them can feel like stepping into the unknown, yet the unknown is only unfamiliar, not unsafe. As you persist in a new assumption, it stabilizes and the world adjusts accordingly. People change, situations shift, and opportunities appear without effort or force. Understand that nothing outside you has independent power. Circumstances, history, and conditions are not deciding your life. They are responding to your inner stance. When you change what you assume to be true within, you change the script life must follow. The outer world has no choice but to echo your inner conviction, because it always has and always will. Time does not create, acceptance does. This truth dissolves the belief that waiting longer will somehow bring fulfillment closer. Time itself is neutral. It has no power to shape your life or produce outcomes. It merely provides a sequence through which what is already accepted becomes visible. When you believe that time is the cause, you place your power outside yourself and unknowingly agree to delay. But when you understand that acceptance is the true creative force, you reclaim authorship over your experience. Most people spend their lives waiting for the right moment, the right conditions, or the right timing. They believe that if enough time passes, circumstances will change on their own. Yet nothing truly changes until there is an inner shift. You may wait years for something to happen, but if you have not accepted it internally, time will only extend the waiting. Delay is not caused by lack of time, it is caused by lack of acceptance. Acceptance is not passive resignation. It is a conscious inner agreement that something is already true. The moment you accept a fulfilled state as natural, your relationship with life changes. You stop striving and start allowing. You no longer look to the future with hope or doubt, but rest in the quiet certainty of now. This inner consent is what sets everything in motion. When acceptance occurs, the mind and emotions align with the new reality. Thoughts begin to shift effortlessly, reactions soften, and expectations change. From this new inner position, your actions become inspired rather than forced. You may be guided to speak to someone, move in a certain direction, or make a decision that feels natural rather than strategic. These are not random actions. They are the bridge through which acceptance expresses itself in form. People often ask how long manifestation takes. But the better question is how long it takes to accept. The moment acceptance is complete, the experience is inevitable. Time may still be involved in the unfolding, but it no longer feels like waiting. It feels like confirmation. What once seemed distant begins to approach naturally, without effort or struggle. Resistance to acceptance usually comes from attachment to old identities or past experiences. Letting go can feel like losing control, when in truth it is gaining freedom. When you release the need for proof and choose acceptance first, you step out of limitation and into alignment. Life responds not to your impatience, but to your inner agreement. Understand this deeply. Time is only the stage, not the actor. Acceptance is the decision that gives the script meaning. When you stop waiting for time to change your life and instead accept fulfillment now, you remove the only barrier that ever existed. Creation does not happen with time, it happens the moment you agree. Feeling is the bridge between the unseen and the seen, the invisible link that carries an idea from imagination into lived experience. Thoughts alone do not shape reality, nor do words spoken without conviction. It is the feeling that gives life to an inner assumption and signals its reality. Feeling is not emotion in its dramatic sense. It is the subtle, inward sense of knowing that something is true. When you feel a state as real, it begins to take form. The unseen realm is where every possibility already exists. It is the space of imagination, assumption, and inner awareness. Yet possibilities remain dormant until they are energized by feeling. Feeling is what impresses an idea upon consciousness. It is the moment you move from thinking about a desire to experiencing it inwardly. Without feeling, an idea remains distant. With feeling, it becomes intimate and alive. When you enter the feeling of fulfillment, you are no longer waiting for proof. You are occupying the state that naturally produces the proof. This inner experience changes your posture toward life. Your reactions soften, your expectations shift, and your behavior subtly aligns with the reality you have accepted. You begin to live as the person who already has, rather than the person who hopes to receive. This is how the bridge forms, quietly, naturally, without force. Many people try to force emotion, believing intensity creates results. But forced emotion often carries tension and doubt. True feeling is calm, stable, and effortless. It is the relief of knowing, the peace of completion. It does not demand attention. It simply exists. When this feeling becomes familiar, it anchors the unseen state into your awareness, making it inevitable in the outer world. Feeling also determines how long something takes to appear. When the feeling of fulfillment is inconsistent, the bridge feels unstable. You move back and forth between knowing and doubting. But when the feeling becomes natural, when it feels like the normal state of being, the bridge solidifies. Life then arranges itself to match what you are consistently feeling to be true. The outer world cannot respond to wishes or affirmations spoken without feeling. It responds to the inner atmosphere you live in. That atmosphere is defined by feeling. If you feel valued, life reflects value. If you feel secure, life mirrors stability. The world is not responding to your effort, but to your inner state. Understand that feeling is not something you wait for circumstances to provide. It is something you choose internally. When you deliberately feel from the end, you step onto the bridge between the unseen and the seen. From there, manifestation is not something you chase. It is something that follows. The unseen becomes visible because feeling has already made it real. Resistance delays nothing except your recognition. What you are seeking is not being held back, postponed, or denied. It already exists in its complete form. Resistance does not stop fulfillment from unfolding, it only keeps you from seeing and receiving what is already prepared. The delay you experience is not in the movement of life, but in your awareness of what life is already offering. Resistance often appears as doubt, overthinking, fear, or the need for constant reassurance. It is the inner argument against acceptance. When the mind questions how, when, or whether something will happen, it shifts attention away from completion and back into lack. Yet nothing is actually interrupted. Life continues to organize itself according to your deeper assumptions, even while the conscious mind resists. The only thing resistance affects is your sense of peace and certainty. Many believe that struggle is necessary, that effort proves worthiness, and that resistance somehow protects them from disappointment. In truth, resistance only prolongs confusion. It keeps you focused on appearances instead of reality. The moment resistance is released, clarity returns. You do not make something happen by letting go. You simply allow yourself to notice what has already been forming. Recognition is the key moment when fulfillment becomes obvious. It is the shift from seeking to seeing. Resistance delays this recognition by keeping attention fixed on what seems absent rather than what is present in unseen form. When you resist, you remain mentally positioned as someone waiting. When resistance dissolves, you step into the position of someone receiving. Resistance often comes from attachment to old identities. If you have long defined yourself by struggle, uncertainty, or lack, fulfillment can feel unfamiliar or even unsafe. Letting go of resistance means letting go of who you thought you had to be. This can feel unsettling, but it is also liberating. The discomfort is not a sign of loss, it is a sign of expansion. Nothing outside of you needs to change before you release resistance. Waiting for circumstances to improve before you relax only reinforces delay. When you allow yourself to soften now, life responds naturally. Opportunities become noticeable, conversations take on new meaning, and paths that were always present become visible. What changed was not the world, but your readiness to recognize it. Understand this deeply. Resistance has never protected you, and it has never stopped creation. It has only kept you distracted. When you stop fighting, questioning, or bracing against possibility, recognition happens effortlessly. You realize that fulfillment was never far away. It was simply waiting for you to stop arguing with it. When resistance ends, recognition begins, and what was once unseen steps naturally into view. When you align your inner state, reality rearranges itself effortlessly, because the outer world is always responding to the position you occupy within. Alignment is not about forcing positive thoughts or controlling emotions. It is about settling into a state that feels natural, true, and complete. When your inner world is coherent, when your thoughts, feelings, and assumptions point in the same direction, life reflects that coherence without struggle. Most effort comes from inner contradiction. You may desire one outcome while assuming another is more likely. You may speak words of confidence while feeling uncertainty underneath. This inner conflict creates friction, and that friction is mirrored as obstacles, delays, and confusion in the outer world. When alignment occurs, that friction disappears. There is no resistance within, so there is nothing for life to push against. Alignment begins with identity. Who you believe yourself to be determines how you interpret and respond to everything. When you internally accept a fulfilled state as your new normal, your reactions change automatically. You stop chasing confirmation because you already feel confirmed. From this place, actions arise naturally. You are guided rather than driven. Decisions feel obvious instead of stressful. This is not effortlessness born from inaction, but from inner clarity. The ability to connect with ourselves. And reality rearranges itself through subtle shifts rather than dramatic force. People may respond to you differently. Opportunities that once seemed inaccessible appear without explanation. Timing improves. You find yourself in the right place at the right moment, not because you planned perfectly, but because your inner state is synchronized with your experience. Life always seeks balance, and when your inner world stabilizes, the outer world follows suit. Trying to control outcomes often signals misalignment. Control comes from doubt, from the belief that without constant management things will fall apart. Alignment removes this fear. When you trust your inner state, you stop micromanaging life. You allow events to unfold, knowing they are responding to something already settled within you. This trust is what makes the process feel effortless. Effortlessness does not mean instant perfection. It means ease in the unfolding. Even challenges, when they arise, no longer feel like obstacles. They feel like movements within a larger flow. You meet them with calm rather than resistance, knowing they are temporary expressions adjusting to your new inner position. The struggle disappears because you are no longer arguing with what is happening. Understand that alignment is always available now. You do not need to wait for external validation to feel complete. The moment you choose an inner state and remain faithful to it, reality begins its quiet reorganization. When your inner state is aligned, life does not need to be forced. It responds naturally, smoothly, and inevitably, rearranging itself to reflect the truth you have already accepted within. As we come to the close of this message, remember this truth above all else. Nothing you desire is missing, delayed, or unfinished. Creation is complete. What you assume within, accept as true, feel as real, and allow without resistance becomes the reality you experience. Time does not create your life. Your inner agreement does. Feeling builds the bridge, alignment removes effort, and recognition reveals what was always prepared for you. When you stop trying to make life happen and instead rest in the certainty of fulfillment, the world responds naturally. Reality has always been listening to who you believe yourself to be. Thank you for your time, your attention, and your willingness to receive. Good evening, my dear friends. Tonight I want to talk to you about something that will sound completely backwards to everything you've been taught. Tonight I want to talk to you about the power of doing nothing. Not the nothing of laziness, not the nothing of giving up, but the nothing of completion, the nothing of rest, the nothing that creates everything. You see, we live in a world obsessed with doing. Do more, try harder, take massive action, hustle, grind, push, force. And so people exhaust themselves in the pursuit of their desires. They run themselves ragged trying to make things happen, trying to force reality to bend to their will, trying to prove through their endless doing that they are worthy of what they want. And still, after all that effort, after all that striving, their desires remain just out of reach. But I'm here to tell you tonight that there is another way, a way that requires no effort, a way that demands no struggle, a way so simple, so radical, so profoundly restful, that most people cannot accept it, because they cannot believe that something so effortless could possibly work. I'm talking about the sacred art of non-doing, the power of radical inner stillness, the creative force of conscious rest. Now, when I say non-doing, I do not mean inaction. I do not mean sitting on your couch waiting for miracles to fall from the sky. I do not mean abandoning your responsibilities or refusing to participate in life. What I mean is something far deeper, far more powerful than mere physical inaction. I mean the inner cessation of all striving, the inner end of all resistance, the inner knowing that the work is already complete, and therefore there is nothing left to do. This is the great paradox that Christ taught when he said, "My yoke is easy and my burden is light." How can the path to manifestation be easy? How can it be light? Because it is not a path of doing, it is a path of being, and being requires no effort. Being simply is. When you are something in consciousness, you do not need to try to become it. You do not need to work toward it. You do not need to earn it or deserve it, or prove yourself worthy of it. You simply rest in the state of already being it, and reality must conform to that inner conviction. Let me tell you what I mean. There was a time when I wanted something desperately. I wanted it so badly I could taste it. And so I did what most people do. I took action. I made plans. I strategized and schemed and worked myself into exhaustion trying to make it happen. And the more I did, the more elusive my desire became. It was as if the universe was playing a cruel game with me, dangling what I wanted just beyond my reach, no matter how hard I stretched toward it. Then one evening, completely exhausted, I simply gave up, not in defeat, not in despair, but in a kind of sacred surrender. I stopped doing. I stopped trying. I stopped reaching. And I sat in perfect stillness and asked myself a simple question. What would it feel like if I already had what I desire? Not someday. Not when I finally earned it. Now. Right now. In this moment. What would it feel like? And in that stillness, something miraculous happened. I felt it. I felt the relief of having. I felt the peace of completion. I felt the absolute normalcy of my desire being fulfilled. And in that feeling, all my striving ceased. There was nothing left to do, because in consciousness, it was already done. The search was over. The work was complete. All that remained was rest. And from that rest, that sacred stillness, that state of inner non-doing, reality began to rearrange itself. Not through my effort, not through my action, but through some mysterious intelligence that operates when we finally get out of the way. Opportunities appeared. Circumstances shifted. People came into my life at exactly the right moment. And before long, what I had experienced in that moment of stillness had materialized in my world. Not because I made it happen, because I allowed it to happen by finally stopping my interference. This is what I mean by the paradox of doing. The greatest doing is non-doing. The most powerful action is conscious rest. Because when you rest in the fulfilled state, when you cease all inner striving and simply abide in the feeling of already having what you desire, you are not being passive. You are being creative in the highest sense. You are impressing upon consciousness the pattern that must appear in your world. And consciousness, being the only creative power there is, must harden that impression into fact. But most people cannot rest. They cannot be still. They are addicted to doing. Because doing makes them feel like they are in control. Doing makes them feel like they are earning their desires, like they are worthy of what they want, like they are actively participating in their own salvation. But I'm telling you, all that doing is interference. All that striving is resistance. All that effort is actually preventing the very thing you want from coming to you. Think about it. When you are constantly doing, constantly trying, constantly working toward your desire, what state are you in? You are in the state of not having. You are in the state of separation. You are in the state of lack, and consciousness does not respond to your actions. Consciousness responds to your state. If your state is one of lack, of not yetness, of trying to get what you don't have, then that is what will continue to manifest in your world. More lack, more separation, more striving without arrival. But when you rest, when you cease all inner doing, when you simply abide in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, what state are you in? You are in the state of having. You are in the state of completion. You are in the state of wholeness. And from that state, reality must give you more of what you already are, not because you worked for it, because you accepted it, not because you earned it, because you claimed it in consciousness. This is why Scripture tells us, be still and know that I am God. Be still. Stop doing. Stop striving. Stop trying to make things happen through your limited human effort. And in that stillness, know that the creative power of the universe, the power that causes everything to be, is within you as your own consciousness. And that power does not need your help. It does not need your struggle. It does not need your endless doing. It only needs your acceptance, your rest, your faith that in consciousness it is already done. I knew a man once who was desperate to change his financial situation. He was working 2 jobs, hustling day and night, trying every scheme and strategy he could think of to make more money. And the more he did, the more exhausted he became. And still he remained broke. His health was failing. His relationships were suffering. His entire life had become one long, grinding attempt to force prosperity into existence through sheer effort. One day I said to him, "What are you doing?" He looked at me confused. "I'm doing everything I can," he said. "I'm working myself to death, trying to make money." And I said, "Exactly. You're working yourself to death. But tell me, in all this doing, in all this endless action, what are you being? Are you being prosperous? Or are you being someone who desperately needs prosperity?" He paused. "I suppose I'm being desperate," he admitted. "I'm being someone who doesn't have enough, someone who needs to work harder to get what I want." And I said, "Then that is your state. That is what you are impressing upon consciousness with every frantic action. Not prosperity, desperation, not abundance, lack. And consciousness, faithful servant that it is, gives you more of what you are, not what you want." I told him to stop. Stop all the desperate doing. Stop the hustle. Stop the grinding. Not forever, but just for a while. Just long enough to discover a different state of being. Tonight, I said, I want you to rest. I want you to do nothing except feel what it would feel like if you were already financially free. Not someday. Now. Feel the relief of not having to work so hard. Feel the ease of having enough. Feel the calm confidence of someone for whom money is not a struggle. And rest in that feeling. Let that be your only work. He was skeptical. How could doing nothing create money? How could resting produce results? But he was also exhausted enough to try anything. So that night he stopped doing. He stopped planning and strategizing and working. He simply rested in the feeling of financial freedom. He felt what it would feel like to wake up without anxiety about bills. He felt what it would feel like to check his bank account and see abundance. He felt what it would feel like to be someone for whom prosperity was normal, natural, effortless. And he fell asleep in that state of rest. Within days something shifted. An old friend called with a business opportunity he never could have planned for. A debt he thought was permanent was suddenly forgiven. Money came from unexpected places. Not through his doing, through his non-doing. Through his rest in the fulfilled state. Through his acceptance in consciousness that prosperity was already his. This is the great secret that the mystics knew, that the scriptures teach, that Christ demonstrated over and over again. Creation is finished. The work is already done. In consciousness, all things already exist in their perfect, completed form. Your desire is not something you need to create. It already exists. Your only work is to rest in the state where you have accepted it as yours. This is the meaning of the Sabbath. The Sabbath is not a day of the week. The Sabbath is the state of rest that comes from knowing creation is complete. God did not rest because he was tired. God rested because the work was finished. And you must learn to rest the same way. Not because you've done enough. Not because you've earned the right to rest. But because in consciousness, the work is already finished. Your desire is already fulfilled. There is nothing left to do except accept it, feel it, and rest in it. But here is where most people stumble. They hear this teaching, and they think it means they should sit around doing nothing while waiting for their desires to appear. They become passive, they become lazy, they confuse non-doing with inaction. But that is not what I mean at all. Non-doing is not about your outer actions. Non-doing is about your inner state. You can take action from rest. You can move and work and participate in life from the state of the wish fulfilled. In fact, when you rest in the fulfilled state, action becomes effortless. You find yourself doing exactly what needs to be done, without strain, without struggle, without that desperate pushing that comes from the state of lack. The right actions flow naturally from the right state. But those actions are not what create your desire. Those actions are simply the path through which your inner conviction externalizes. The key is to rest first, to be still first, to accept in consciousness first, and then let action, if action is needed, come from that state of rest, rather than from the state of striving. Because action from rest is inspired action. Action from rest is effortless action. Action from rest is action that feels good, that flows easily, that produces results without exhaustion. I'll tell you something else. The reason most people cannot rest is because they do not truly believe their desire is already theirs in consciousness. They still see it as something out there, something separate, something they need to work toward and earn and deserve. But consciousness is not out there. Consciousness is within. And within consciousness, all things already exist. Your desire is not separate from you. Your desire is already yours in the only place that matters, in consciousness, and consciousness is the only reality there is. When you finally understand this, when you finally accept that your desire is already yours in consciousness, and consciousness is all that exists, then rest becomes natural. Then non-doing becomes effortless. Because there is nothing to do. You don't work toward what you already have. You rest in it, you enjoy it. You live from it. And the outer world, being merely a reflection of inner states, must eventually show you in form what you have already accepted in consciousness. This is why Christ said, "It is finished." Not "it will be finished when you work hard enough." Not "it will be finished when you prove yourself worthy." It is finished. Present tense. Complete. Done. In consciousness, the work is always already finished. The only question is, will you rest in that completion? Or will you continue to strive, to struggle, to do and do and do until you exhaust yourself trying to create what already exists? Tonight I want you to stop. Stop all the doing. Stop all the trying. Stop all the endless action that comes from the state of lack, and instead be still. Rest, feel what it would feel like if your desire were already fulfilled. Not someday, not when you've done enough. Now, in this moment, in consciousness. And rest in that feeling. Make that your dwelling place. Let that be the state from which you live, and watch what happens. Watch as opportunities appear. Watch as circumstances rearrange themselves. Watch as the right people show up at the right time. Watch as your desire, which was always yours in consciousness, begins to materialize in your world, not through your effort, through your rest, not through your doing, through your non-doing, not through your struggle, through your acceptance. This is the paradox. The greatest doing is non-doing. The most powerful action is rest. The highest work is acceptance. Because when you rest in the fulfilled state, when you cease all inner resistance, when you simply allow consciousness to do what consciousness does naturally, which is to express itself, then manifestation is not only possible, it is inevitable. So let go of the belief that you must earn your desires through endless doing. Let go of the addiction to action that comes from the fear that if you stop doing, nothing will happen. Let go of the exhausting cycle of striving and struggling and pushing and forcing, and instead rest. Be still. Accept in consciousness that what you desire is already yours, and live from that state of completion, that state of rest, that state of the wish fulfilled. This is not passivity. This is power. This is not inaction. This is the highest action there is. This is not giving up. This is accepting what is already yours. And when you finally rest in this way, when you finally cease all doing and simply be, you will discover what the mystics have always known, that stillness creates what action cannot, that rest produces what effort never will, that non-doing is the most powerful doing there is. Thank you and good evening. This is Best of Lectures. I will see you in the next video. God is already working behind the scenes in ways far greater than your current senses can comprehend. The moment you dared to believe that something better was possible, the entire universe began shifting itself to match the truth you claimed within. Your desire was never random. It was a whisper from the divine, a message that something magnificent was already prepared for you, waiting only for your inner consent. What you feel as longing is actually a spiritual announcement that what you seek is seeking you. Every great movement of God begins in silence, in the unseen, long before it ever reaches the outer world. Too many look for evidence in physical reality, forgetting that the physical is always the final manifestation, never the origin. Your feelings, your assumptions, your inner conversations, these are the sacred tools through which God moves. If you can hold the end in your mind with calm conviction, the outer world will bow to that inner certainty. The big things you're waiting for are not outside of you. They are unfolding because of you. Develop a personal mindset. When nothing seems to be happening, that is often when the greatest work is taking place. The seed does not show its growth while in the soil. The roots form long before the fruit appears. This is the exact process occurring in your life right now. What feels like stillness is actually divine rearrangement. People are being positioned, doors are being aligned, circumstances are being reconfigured. What once felt impossible is quietly becoming inevitable. Your faith is not meant to be a reaction to what you see. It is meant to be the cause of what you will soon see. When you persist in the assumption that things are moving in your favor, you make it unavoidable for life to reflect that truth back to you. Even when the outer world contradicts your belief, even when everything appears unchanged, remain loyal to the inner picture. That inner loyalty is what moves the heavens. That inner conviction is what makes God remove barriers, shift timelines, and alter outcomes on your behalf. Do not measure your progress by what the senses reveal. Your senses can only show you what has already been formed, not what is forming. The unseen is where the miracle starts. Every answered prayer begins as a quiet inner knowing, a subtle feeling that something has already shifted. When you feel that inner completion, the outer world has no choice but to follow. So keep believing, keep knowing, keep seeing the end in your mind as already fulfilled. God is moving big things, things beyond your imagination, things that will make you wonder how it all came together so perfectly. Your only job is to remain faithful to the vision, to the feeling, to the inner victory. Everything else is being taken care of for you. Your miracle is not approaching, it is unfolding. Your blessing is not on its way, it is being arranged. And the moment you fully accept this truth within, the world will reshape itself to prove you right. Keep believing, because the divine shift has already begun in your favor. What you assume as true becomes the very channel through which God moves, shaping your reality with a precision that mirrors the state of your inner conviction. Every assumption is a seed planted in the invisible, and like any seed, it grows according to its nature. When you hold an assumption with feeling, with acceptance, with a quiet certainty that it already belongs to you, you open a spiritual pathway that allows the divine to work effortlessly on your behalf. You are never waiting for life to change. Life is waiting for you to take a stand in your inner world. The assumption you choose, whether of abundance, love, healing, success, or breakthrough, becomes the mold into which God pours the events, circumstances, and opportunities that align with it. Many believe that external conditions determine their fate, but in truth, it is the inner acceptance that dictates what follows. Every transformation begins by claiming a new identity inwardly. When you assume that you are already the person who has received their desire, you shift from hoping to knowing, from wishing to possessing. And this inner shift is the true signal. This is the language God responds to. Not fear, not doubt, not desperation, but the quiet confidence that the end is already secured. Your assumption becomes the bridge between the invisible and the visible, and once it is firmly held, the outer world has no choice but to rearrange itself to match it. Assumptions are powerful because they bypass willpower and effort. They work in silence, they work in the background, they influence every thought you think, every action you take, every decision you make, and every opportunity that flows toward you. When you assume the best, you tune yourself to the frequency where divine movement becomes natural and effortless. You stop chasing and begin attracting. You stop forcing and begin allowing. You stop pleading with God and begin aligning with Him. For God does not respond to frantic effort. He responds to faith-filled acceptance. And acceptance is nothing more than the assumption that what you desire has already been given. The moment you choose a new assumption, the unseen begins to shift. People start showing up, conversations unfold, coincidences align, and doors open that you didn't even know existed. This is not random. It is the divine acting through the channel you created. God needs your cooperation, but not in the form of struggle or strain. He needs your alignment. He needs your inner consent. And that consent is given through the assumption that it is already done. As you persist in that state, no matter what the senses report, you strengthen the channel and make the outcome inevitable. Your assumption is the cause, your experience is the effect. Whatever you hold as true, even if only in imagination, will eventually harden into fact. God moves through your belief, your acceptance, your inner reality. So choose your assumptions with intention. Choose the ones that honor your worth, your potential, your purpose. For the moment you assume the truth of your desire, you invite God to move in ways that elevate, transform, and bless every area of your life. Your inner acceptance is the signal that activates divine rearrangement, the quiet permission you give to life for the unseen to become seen. Nothing in the outer world can change until it is first accepted within. Every desire, every longing, every vision you carry begins as a subtle thought, a feeling, a conviction that has yet to find its form in the material world. When you fully accept the reality of what you wish for within, you are effectively sending a signal to the universe that it is time for the outer world to catch up. This acceptance is not passive, it is not wishful thinking or blind hope. It is the deliberate acknowledgement that what you seek is already yours, that the circumstances aligning in your favor are already in motion, and that the delay you perceive is simply the unseen work being completed on your behalf. Many people struggle because they seek evidence before they believe. They look to the outer world and say, I cannot see it, so it cannot be true. This is the opposite of the principle at work. The outer world is always a reflection of the inner state. Until you allow yourself to accept what is already yours in consciousness, the world cannot rearrange itself. Inner acceptance is the green light for divine intervention, the signal that allows life to move, shift, and transform in perfect accordance with your desires. The moment you embrace your wish as already fulfilled, you initiate a chain of unseen events that are perfectly synchronized to bring the vision into reality. This is how miracles are orchestrated, silently, invisibly, yet with absolute certainty. Acceptance is not resignation. It is not a surrender to impossibility. It is the confident recognition that the desired outcome exists now in the spiritual realm, and that it is only a matter of time before it manifests materially. By holding this acceptance, you are aligning yourself with the flow of life, creating a resonance that attracts circumstances, people, and opportunities that match the state you have assumed. This inner state communicates to the universe that you are ready, that you are prepared, and that you are in harmony with the end result. Once this signal is sent, life responds in kind. Situations that seemed fixed begin to shift, solutions appear where none existed, and pathways open that you could not have imagined. This is the divine rearrangement in action, the world bending to match the consciousness you have adopted. The beauty of this principle is that it works quietly, without fanfare or struggle. You do not need to force outcomes, manipulate events, or convince others. All that is required is your inner consent, your willingness to believe without seeing. Every time you dwell in the feeling of acceptance, you strengthen the invisible current that shapes your destiny. The circumstances around you may remain unchanged for a while, but within, the rearrangement is already underway. Trust the process, for the unseen always precedes the seen. Your inner acceptance is the signal, the command, and the declaration that makes the outer world bow to the vision you have embraced. When you cultivate this inner state consistently, life has no choice but to respond, and the perfect manifestation of your desire unfolds effortlessly and beautifully. The unseen shifts always come before the visible breakthroughs, for the outer world is never the origin of change. It is merely the reflection of what has already been established within. Before a mountain moves, before a door opens, before a breakthrough becomes apparent, the invisible groundwork is laid. This is the principle that governs every transformation, every answered prayer, and every miracle in life. What you see as delay or inaction is in truth the careful orchestration of forces beyond the senses, aligning, arranging, and preparing circumstances so that when the breakthrough arrives, it arrives fully formed, perfectly timed, and unmistakably yours. Nothing happens randomly, and nothing manifests without first existing in the unseen realm of consciousness. The invisible realm is where belief, feeling, and imagination act as architects, constructing the reality that will eventually appear. Every thought, every inner assumption, every feeling of faith is a signal sent into this unseen domain, where divine intelligence responds by shaping outcomes in perfect harmony with your state of mind. When you imagine a reality as already complete, when you dwell in the feeling of having what you desire, you are initiating the unseen shifts that will inevitably lead to the visible manifestation. This is why inner work, mental, emotional, and spiritual alignment is far more powerful than any outward effort. The unseen always precedes the seen, and without it, the breakthrough cannot arrive. Many give up too soon because they mistake the lack of visible evidence for failure. They forget that the unseen is always working, often in ways that are completely imperceptible at the moment. Seeds buried in the soil do not sprout instantly. Roots must form, nutrients must gather, and growth must occur beneath the surface before any green shoot emerges. Similarly, your desires are taking root invisibly, aligning circumstances, attracting people, and orchestrating events in the background. This invisible preparation is not wasted time. It is essential for the breakthrough that appears without sufficient unseen alignment is often incomplete, fleeting, or unstable. True manifestation is born from thorough, unseen work, executed in silence, guided by faith, and sustained by the inner conviction that the desired outcome already exists. To accelerate the manifestation, you must cultivate patience and inner assurance. Focus not on what is visible, but on what is real in the mind and heart. Maintain the feeling of fulfillment, the sense of completion, and the unwavering belief that the breakthrough is already achieved. When you hold this inner state consistently, you strengthen the invisible currents that shape your reality. The universe responds not to your doubts, your fears, or your urgencies, but to the steady, unwavering acceptance of what you wish to see. The unseen shifts, working quietly and purposefully, set the stage for the outer world to bend in accordance with your inner reality. Understand that every visible miracle, every sudden change, and every breakthrough is preceded by unseen movement. The universe is constantly arranging, realigning, and orchestrating to bring the inner state into expression. Your job is to remain aligned, to nurture the belief, to hold the vision, and to trust the invisible process. When you do, the moment arrives when the unseen shifts crystallize into the visible, and your breakthrough appears exactly as it was imagined, perfectly timed and profoundly satisfying. Patience and inner alignment are not just virtues. They are the keys to allowing the unseen to do its divine work before the visible emerges. Your faith is the permission slip that allows big things to form in your favor, the silent declaration that opens the door for divine orchestration to occur on your behalf. Without faith, the universe waits, for it responds not to hesitation, doubt, or uncertainty, but to the unwavering belief that what you desire is already yours. Faith is not a mere hope or wish. It is the inner knowing that the outcome you seek exists now in the spiritual realm and is only waiting for you to align with it in consciousness. When you exercise faith, you are effectively giving the universe the green light to move, rearrange, and manifest circumstances that serve your highest good. It is the key that unlocks unseen doors, the force that mobilizes opportunities, and the signal that what you have imagined is already in motion, waiting to appear. Many people struggle because they look for visible proof before they act or believe. They say, "I will believe when I see it," not realizing that faith is the very mechanism that makes it visible. The outer world cannot precede the inner state. It cannot manifest something that has not already been accepted within. Your faith is therefore not passive. It is the active consent that life requires in order to deliver. It is the declaration that you are ready to receive, ready to embody, and ready to walk into the blessings that are already being prepared for you. Every great achievement, every miracle, every extraordinary shift in life begins with this inner alignment, with the steady, unwavering conviction that the desired outcome exists now, even if the senses cannot yet detect it. Faith also changes the way you move through the world. It aligns your thoughts, words, and actions with the reality you desire, creating a resonance that attracts circumstances and people in harmony with that reality. When you act with faith, you are no longer pushing against life or forcing outcomes. You are allowing life to respond to the state you have assumed. Doors open effortlessly, guidance appears in unexpected ways, and challenges dissolve before they manifest fully, because the energy of faith is shaping the environment around you. It is as if the universe itself responds to the quiet authority of your belief, bending, shifting, and arranging itself to match the inner state you have cultivated. Faith also sustains you during the waiting period. The timing of divine movement is never coincidental. It unfolds when conditions are perfectly aligned for the highest good. During this period, doubt and impatience can undermine your progress, while faith fortifies your position. By maintaining unwavering belief, you keep the channel open for miracles, breakthroughs, and abundance to flow effortlessly toward you. It is faith that transforms delay into preparation, obstacles into opportunities, and uncertainty into a fertile ground for manifestation. Faith is the permission slip you give to life, a declaration that you are ready, deserving, and aligned with the outcome you seek. It signals the universe that you are prepared to receive, and in response, big things begin to form in your favor. Faith is the silent, powerful command that sets the divine machinery in motion, ensuring that everything is arranged perfectly, invisibly, and inevitably until your desired reality appears in its full, magnificent expression. But delay is never denial. It is the preparation of circumstances aligning perfectly for you, the unseen orchestration that sets the stage for your desires to manifest in the most complete and powerful way. Many misunderstand delay as a sign that their dreams will never come true, that life is against them, or that the universe has forgotten them. In truth, delay is the silent work happening behind the scenes, where the unseen forces of life are arranging everything in precise order. What appears as waiting is in reality divine timing at work, ensuring that when your breakthrough occurs, it arrives fully formed, stable, and in perfect alignment with your highest good. Every delay is purposeful, designed not to frustrate you, but to prepare the outer world to reflect the inner reality you have claimed. When you desire something deeply, your mind often wants immediate evidence, yet the physical manifestation of your desire cannot leap ahead of the inner state that creates it. The unseen must first move. Conditions must align, circumstances must adjust, opportunities must be placed, and people must come into position. All of this takes time, not because you are being denied, but because life is carefully constructing the environment that will perfectly accommodate your vision. Impatience disrupts this process. Faith sustains it. By remaining aligned with your inner knowing, by holding the vision as already fulfilled, you allow the preparation to unfold without resistance, ensuring that the manifestation is not only inevitable, but effortless and complete. Delay also serves as an opportunity for refinement. During periods of waiting, your beliefs, attitudes, and inner assumptions are tested. Are you willing to remain steadfast in your inner conviction, even when the outer world seems contrary? Are you able to persist in the feeling of fulfillment, even when proof is not yet visible? These moments of apparent delay are designed to strengthen your faith, to deepen your alignment, and to perfect the inner state that will ultimately attract the desired outcome. The universe waits for you to reach this alignment because the outer world cannot manifest what your inner consciousness is not fully prepared to accept. Delay is, therefore, not a punishment or a setback. It is a vital part of the creative process. Delay often works in ways that surpass your imagination. While you wait, unseen opportunities, coincidences, and arrangements are taking place that you cannot yet perceive. People, resources, and circumstances are being subtly guided into position so that when the time is right, your desire emerges fully supported, leaving no gaps, no struggles, and no compromise. What might have manifested prematurely could have been incomplete or temporary, but the deliberate timing ensures that the manifestation is perfect, lasting, and aligned with your highest good. To navigate delay successfully, trust the process, remain faithful, and continue to dwell in the feeling of the fulfilled desire. Understand that the unseen is always working, even when the senses report nothing. Delay is the universe's preparation, the careful alignment of every element necessary for your success. When the manifestation finally appears, it will not be partial or forced. It will be complete, harmonious, and exactly as you imagined. Delay is never denial. It is the perfect, invisible preparation that ensures life moves in your favor with precision, power, and grace. When you stay loyal to the end result, God moves mountains to meet you there. Loyalty to the end result is the unwavering inner commitment to the reality you desire. The steadfast refusal to let temporary appearances, obstacles, or doubts shake the certainty that what you have imagined is already accomplished. It is not enough to wish, hope, or even feel inspired occasionally. True manifestation requires consistent fidelity to the vision, a dedication that outlasts setbacks, delays, and the seeming contradictions of the outer world. When you remain loyal in this way, you are no longer a passive observer of life. You become an active participant in the orchestration of your reality. The universe cannot help but respond, for loyalty is the signal that activates divine cooperation, the magnetic force that draws circumstances, people, and opportunities into perfect alignment with your inner state. Loyalty to the end result begins within. It is a decision to dwell in the feeling of the fulfilled desire, to imagine the outcome vividly, and to accept it as fact, regardless of what the senses report. The outer world is rarely the proof of fulfillment. It is the effect of what has been established internally. Mountains of doubt, opposition, or difficulty may appear, yet they are powerless against the steadfastness of inner loyalty. Each moment that you resist the temptation to waver, to doubt, or to surrender, you are strengthening the invisible current that carries your desire into manifestation. This inner constancy is what separates fleeting wishes from real, tangible outcomes. The universe responds not to the intensity of effort, but to the persistence of faith, the loyalty to the vision that refuses to yield under pressure. When you stay loyal to the end result, life begins to conspire on your behalf. Doors open where they seemed locked. Resources appear where scarcity was evident, and solutions present themselves where problems seemed insurmountable. Mountains shift quietly, imperceptibly, yet powerfully, to clear the path for your desire to manifest. This is the divine intelligence at work, responding to the signal of your unwavering loyalty. It is not about forcing circumstances or controlling outcomes. It is about maintaining your inner state, allowing the outer world to align itself with the reality you have embraced. The greater your loyalty, the more extraordinary the response. What once seemed impossible becomes inevitable because you have refused to let temporary appearances dictate your conviction. Loyalty also strengthens your resilience. Life's challenges will test the firmness of your belief, but each trial is an opportunity to deepen your fidelity to the end result. As long as you remain aligned, holding the feeling of fulfillment, the universe continues to orchestrate conditions in your favor. Mountains do not resist forever, they move for those who do not move from their inner certainty. Your role is to remain steadfast, to imagine, to feel, and to accept, while life arranges the circumstances to support your vision. Staying loyal to the end result is the key that unlocks extraordinary manifestations. It is the inner authority that commands the outer world, the unwavering faith that compels divine movement, and the steadfast devotion that ensures every obstacle, delay, and challenge is transformed into a stepping stone toward fulfillment. God moves mountains for those who remain loyal, for loyalty is the signal that your desire is ready to be received, and nothing can stand in the way of a mind and heart fully aligned with its truth.